of that toughness. But the truth is, you can't have it both ways. Either tariffs impose costs on American businesses and consumers, in which case Trump should just be honest about that trade-off, or they don't, in which case there's nothing for Walmart to eat. And yet, Trump's approach to economic policy has always been more about marketing than substance. He loves the idea of being tough on China, but doesn't want Americans to feel the consequences of that toughness. He wants the political benefit of protectionism without the economic cost of it. But economics don't work that way. There are always trade-offs, and the trade-off with tariffs is simple. Americans pay more for goods. That's not Walmart's fault, it's not China's fault. That is the direct, predictable result of Donald Trump's policy choices, period. So the next time you're at Walmart and you see higher prices, remember, Trump isn't just wrong about who pays tariffs, he is now demanding that private companies hide the truth from you by eating costs that they simply can't or won't absorb. And when they can't or won't do that, he'll blame them instead of taking responsibility for his own actions. Trump is leading the party of personal responsibility. About time he actually started taking some. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.
You don't realize a lot of things, but you certainly don't realize this either. I don't have an issue with a person like yourself being my ideological enemy. You understand? As a matter of fact, this proves the point that I make all the time, which is that the people that consider me to be an evil person that deserves prison are usually some of the dumbest and most hogs you have ever encountered. All right. Let's get to Oxford Union. And this was obviously months ago, 5 months ago specifically. I mean, this was before my Oxford Union conversation took place, before Trump became president. It was, when was it? When did this actually take place? I don't know. It was December 5th. Okay, so it's a post-election, right after the election, but before Trump became president officially. So it was December last year. You wore all that just to put on Dr. Martens? Yeah, I love those shoes. What are you talking about? Anyway, so this is a conversation that took place in December 2024, and it is, damn, you were skinny. I'm literally the same weight now as I am there. All right, let's Dr. Martens. I mean, I just read whatever that chat was saying. Okay.
We're priming young men who are already in the throes of radicalization due to the hopelessness that they feel, who are already very vulnerable into being really open-minded. Dare I say too open-minded to reactionary opinions.
I poured water for you.
Okay, that was a thunderous applause in comparison to Cambridge, I'll tell you what.
First of all, thank you so much for those remarks. On that note, you've demonstrated a remarkable your online community. For example, you raised over $1 million, fundraised over $1 million for Palestine, over 200,000 for Ukraine. You yourself donated to the UCLA encampment. And young people have been at the forefront of pro-Palestinian activism and other causes as well. And you've done that uniquely through Twitch and streaming, especially breaking down dire political topics, election updates, and international affairs. So on a broader note, how do you think bridging, the world of Twitch and streaming with politics has had an impact on young people, especially on the discourse between left and right-wing discourse?
Oof. So I think that my little community online is almost like an island in a sea of sharks for the most part. I think that Twitch has this profound ability to get people to be invested in certain causes, and I would feel I'd feel insufficient if I spoke on all of the horrifying things that happen all around the world and not take some sort of action against it, because sometimes simply communicating these issues is not enough. So I've been able to effectively use my audience in that regard, and I worked with a bunch of other content creators as well in another endeavor called Creators for Palestine, where we also raised another, I think it was like $2 million for numerous Palestinian charities on the ground. And it's been, I mean, I've been tremendously privileged, and I try to use that privilege for good every single day. But would I say that the entire online space, especially the entire political arena online, is similar? No, definitely not. I think it's like heavily dominated by a lot of right-wing commentary, and you know, I just try to do my best to fight back against disinformation and try to convince people to see the world in a different way.
So on that note, you referenced that under President Joe Biden, there's actually been an increase of male-centered, and I quote, Gamergate culture war narratives at the forefront of political commentary. So can you expand on what that phenomenon means and its implications on political discourse?
Yeah, so I talked about this with Pod Save America leading up to the election as well, where I noticed that, I think one day I saw a tweet that this guy named Sean Ryan, who's like a former CIA guy or something, I don't know, he's like one of those like defense guys. He's virtually interviewed every single person that Donald Trump has picked for his cabinet. It's just, you know, to give you a better understanding of what kind of content he makes. He had actually overthrown Joe Rogan as the #1 podcast. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I saw the list of podcasts, and I was like, oh my God, every single podcast on here is insanely right-wing. All the top podcasts were dominated by like Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan. Like, Joe Rogan was woke in comparison to the rest of this list, and it blew my mind. I was like, holy shit, like I just, you know, I can't believe it. And then I looked a little bit deeper.
Hassan Diddy Osama Piker, they are going to catch you in your lie, terrorist defender. Asman is the #1 political streamer. Man, the day Hassan Diddy Osama Piker goes to jail for being a terrorist supporter, we should make it a national holiday. It will happen. You can't stop yourself from glue terrorist D at this point. That is the family business. Account created in 2011. Like, this person is not 12 years old, man. Account created in 2011. Yeah, exactly. He admits it himself. This is a 32-year-old man. He's only a year younger than me. And this is how warped his brain is. I am so hope you go to jail. Brother, you can't even spell correctly. You're already in jail that you have created for yourself. Please read some books. Tap out of this online business for a little bit, please. This is unimaginably embarrassing. Don't worry, I'm sure you will like jail. Genuinely do not understand why Asmongold can't get away with weaponizing this audience like this to harass you, because who the f is going to do anything? You think Twitch is going to be like, wow, Asmongold and his followers love coming in here and love going to Hassan's chat and just consistently calling him this, whatever this is. Oh no, I did this because I wanted to. We know. Also, I don't even give a shit, to be fair. I like having Asmongold's hogs in here. It's awesome. I just don't like terrorist supporters. Okay. Do you like Israel then? Yeah, this is a 32-year-old man. You do give a shit. I message an instant pool. No, I give a shit in the sense that I don't give a shit about like the negative consequences of this. I treat this as a positive interaction. I like having people like you in here. Your immediate stupidity actually reveals how dumb your position is. Like the way you talk, the errors that you make, what you think is like coming across as like a normal statement that is entirely schizophrenic. Like that in and of itself is doing marketing for me, whether you realize it or not. You don't realize a lot of things, but you certainly don't realize this either. I don't have an issue with a person like yourself being my ideological enemy. You understand? As a matter of fact, this proves the point that I make all the time, which is that the people that consider me to be an evil person that deserves prison are usually some of the dumbest and most racist hogs you have ever encountered, who wouldn't be able to get away with saying stuff like this in public and only can say stuff like this under the guise of anonymity online. Does that make sense? Not a lot makes sense for you. I like watching Asman. I'm going to be real. It turned me onto your channel. While I disagree with some of what you say, I do appreciate the different perspective. Not all Asman viewers are mouth breathers like this dude. I'm sure. There's also that aspect of it too, which certainly markets my position to a broader audience. Even if they come in here with an uncharitable perspective, it's still ultimately good. You're looking for the word keyboard warrior? I mean, yeah, we know as a keyboard warrior. Do you understand me to write in my native language? Can you even understand it? I'm in a demographic that could so easily have ended up in Asman's community instead. And let me tell you, none of those people are talking to anyone in real life. I mean, I know that they're not. Because if they were talking to someone in real life, like a normal person in real life, and they said words like that, if they strung along a bunch of words such as this one, they would get checked. So what I mean by this is like, it reminds me of the Will Menaker take about conservative comedy, about how conservatives are incapable, reactionaries are incapable of doing comedy because comedy requires you to have a funny perspective on things that would normally be frustrating. But these guys get so angry midway through the process that they just like start saying a bunch of insane things. This is what's happening here. Like, this person does not even know what his real gripe is. In his mind, he thinks like, I represent Islam, and that's dangerous and scary. That's it. There's no real nuance there. You know what I mean? Yeah. And here, this is his. These are his takes in the Asmongold chat. Moderate Islamists are the grass that hides the snake, kind of the Burgess thing. Moderate Islamists are the grass that hides the snake. You will get banned if you play it insta-ban. Can we not like Muslims? Can we not like Muslims? Can we just Muslim countries and be done with them? Muslims, man, they can't stop killing. Gaming journalists are idiots. That's lie. Hassan is not banned. F Hassan, man. Like, this is in Asmongold's chat and not banned in his chat for saying we should just nuke all Muslims. As opposed to someone in this community, if they were to fucking say we should nuke all Jews, they would be lasered instantly. Okay? They'd be lasered from this community instantly, and most likely even fucking banned from the platform. They'd probably get a platform-wide ban. Do you see what I mean? They did get banned. Never mind. Wait. They got banned. They got banned. Not here. But they got banned. W base as fuck. I love this woman. W. Most likely, I assume, for spam. Yeah. Banned in Asmongold's chat. Still hates me more. Not banned in mine, though. I did got banned. Why you lying? Dude, I love that. You got banned and you're still riding. Yeah, 100% banned for spam, most likely. Dude, why you lying? I did got banned. Yeah, I got banned for getting wild for against Islam. Again, banned in the chat, still fucking defending Asmongold. No, I got banned for saying Islam equals terrorist. Okay, well, I'm happy that Asmongold's community is moderated appropriately. I will be keeping this guy, for the record, in the chat. I did got banned. Why you lying? No, you don't represent Islam. You represent terrorists. Yeah, except you already said your opinion on Islam. You said there's no such thing as like moderate Muslims. They're fucking hiding the truth about the dangers of Islam, which you think should be nuked. You think Muslim equals terrorist. That's it. And Luckily, no, this person is not 12. Stop assuming that these people are 12. They are mentally stunted adults. He already revealed that he's a 32-year-old man, okay? You need to understand. We got a new pet in here, by the way, and we'll keep it. We'll keep this one. All right, let's continue with this.
And I shouldn't have, but that was Spotify, and Apple News was Apple Podcast was the exact same, and I was a little bit worried, so I brought it up, especially because in the space that I'm in, there is a lot of center-right, centrist, fence-sitting content creators that find themselves in the throes of right-wing radicalization, sometimes organically, other times they do it because they know that there's a market for it. But there are a lot of commentary channels out there that...
They just ate a fucking perma. They just ate a site-wide ban. Oops. For the whole nuke the entire Muslim world take that they had. 2011 account, too.
Find themselves doing center-right commentary all the way to far-right commentary. And it exists in virtually...
This is why I lose all my hogs, man. This is why I lose all my fucking hogs. I want to keep them. But then Twitch will just be like, okay, well, that's an incredibly racist thing that this person said. They deserve a ban, site-wide ban. And then I can't even fucking... Still talking about Asmonlaw? No, you dumb fuck. I'm not the one who brought him up. That chatter did. Are you guys so stupid? This is... Dude... Asmongold chatters will come in here and be like, dude, Asmongold is #1. And then I fucking pulled them up and I talk about their own perspective, like, their worldview or whatever, and be like, once again, talking about fucking Asmongold. It's like, no, you brought it up.
Every single interest that young men have. You like cars? You go to a YouTube car channel, and all of a sudden this guy's like talking about the G-Wagon's history, and then he's like a little bit too enthusiastic. You're like, what's going on? Why are you talking about it like that? Or video games obviously is the one that everybody knows, where virtually every single commentator in that space is constantly talking about, like, there was a black woman on a video game. That's woke. That's DEI. We need to end that. And I think that we're priming young men who are already in the throes of radicalization due to the hopelessness that they...
You are sad that a psychotic racist got permit because you can't play with your pet, man. Please fix your brain. I mean, I think that's the appropriate way to deal with a lot of these racists, you know? It's just like, I want to pet the hog a little bit.
They feel who are already very vulnerable into being really open-minded. Dare I say too open-minded to reactionary opinions.
So just shifting to the election, you and other left-leaning commentators have been vocal in condemning decisions by the Democratic Party in the run-up to the election. You were actually kicked out of the DNC, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. But even after that, in the recent part of
Asmon has a Hassan emote? Wait, really? What is the emote that he has of me? Dude, once again, the double standard is so fucking ominous, so glaring, so obvious. It's like, it's called Crash Out. That's so funny. And it's me soy facing. Dude, that is fucking hilarious, okay? First of all, any kind of like face distortion that is applied to me is additionally funny when you look like Asmongold. But secondly, if I were to fucking use any Asmongold emotes in my chat, how much do you think his community and every other fucking adjacent right-wing community would fucking lose their minds and be like, dude, you're so rent-free? I need to see this emote. What does it look like? Is it this? I guess we have the cockroach emoji. By the way, you mog him with that emote. You have more bottom teeth than him. They unironically used to ban streamers for doing shit like this. If you did this, they'd scream until you got banned. Oh, for sure. If I had like a ugly ass emote, not even like, I wouldn't need to like uglify it, to be fair. But if I had like a crash out emote talking about Asmongold, I would probably get banned. Let's be real. This is the emote. Oh, that's funny. Not gonna lie, the pictures his editors using as thumbnails of you are kind of a glow up. I know. Is he gonna get banned for harassing other streamers? Fuck no, of course not. Of course not. I also don't give a shit, if we're being real. I don't care. Stop being a bitch, chatters. I do care when it's like harassing other people. I do care when the community is used to go after like random people, journalists, things of that nature. Like Alyssa Mercante comes to mind. You know what I mean? But I can deal with it. I can handle it. I don't give a shit. You're more mainstream. You're more mainstream. I had no idea about this man until I heard about him from you. Yeah, of course. But we're not mainstream right now. We're online. We're online, and the spaces that we occupy online are incredibly fucking right wing. And also, being a mainstream figure doesn't necessarily translate to having the same amount of impact. You can have people that are not mainstream, like Asmongold, have a tremendous amount of impact in the spaces that they occupy, whether it be Twitch or even YouTube, right?
Of Hunter Biden, you even called like liberals stupid in the recent video that you put out about that. So do you think repeated criticisms by prominent left-wing figures cost the party this election, and do you think they deserved it?
I don't think that my criticisms of the party were were costly to the election. I often think if I had that capacity, because this is something that people say all the time, where you're like, you're too critical of the Democrats. I'm like, well, first of all, if they listened to me, I think that they probably would have performed better. You know, that's one thing that I've seen at least. But also, if I had this kind of motion, Bernie Sanders would be president. This would be the end of his second term, you know? I don't. But also, if I had this kind of motion and this kind of influence, then the Democratic Party would be stupid not to come and, like, beg.
What's up, everyone? Here's a tutorial for a difficult but necessary star in 70 and 120 star. Cruiser is a hard star since Rainbow Ride is such a disjointed stage, but it teaches precise movement. I see a lot of new runners try the beginner strats, find them too hard, and instead go straight into Lakitu bounce and lose like 100 runs to it before getting a PB. To me, that just sounds like a lack of understanding on the star. I'm going to break it down into segments and show you all the different options you have for movements, along with some tips and tricks to make it easier. At the very least, it's worth watching to know these as a backup. Before we get started on the star, I want to explain a mechanic of movement. You may have noticed if you've played Mario 64 for any extended period of time, Mario's angle does not change while he is in the air. So once you get a good angle, you can lock it in, and even if you turn the camera, he will hold this angle. When you move Mario in the air, we call this strafing. You can strafe left, right, forwards, or backwards. You need to be comfortable with doing this in all directions since it's useful for spacing properly and to differentiate between diving and stall kicking. The moat is a really good place to practice getting a feel for when Mario will dive versus when he will kick. Alright, let's get back into the actual star. So the first thing to address is the triple jump wall kick at the start of the level. You want to put some time into learning this since you have to use it for 3 to 4 stars in Rainbow Ride. There's 2 main variations to this. The first is the buffer kick. You can buffer kick the first jump of the triple jump. This is my preferred method since the buffer kick is always the minimum height you can get on a jump. This is the texture on the ground that I was always looking for when I started off. You can strafe to the right until you get Mario between the crack. If you are not comfortable with the buffer kick or forget to do it when you enter the stage, a regular triple jump will work. Aim for the same spot as shown previously. If you find yourself glitchy bonking on the spinning platform, you are trying to wall kick too low. This can happen for 2 main reasons. If you do the third jump of the triple jump too far from the edge, you will not be at the right height when performing the wall kick. You will interact with the platform as a ceiling, bonk, and fall down. The second way is if you are too much to the left and the edge of the spinning platform hits you. There is a bit of an invis-wall sticking out that you can bonk on. You'll see top players actually use this property to do glitchy wall kicks, but we're just going to avoid it by being to the right. This next section of movement is the same regardless of what strat you do. Once you get up here where the pink bomb is, there's a lot of variation in the strats. The first thing I want to point out is this wall kick we do to get up on top of the maze. I'm going to cover both getting a ledge grab out of the wall kick as well as skipping the ledge grab. So let's cover getting the ledge grab. This is the more comfy strat. Basically, the earlier you start your long jump, the lower Mario will be when performing the wall kick. This gives you more time to strafe after the wall kick and get a ledge grab. As you can guess, if you want to skip the ledge grab, you can run forward a little and delay the wall kick. Mario will be higher when he wall kicks, and you can get up without ledge grabbing. The timing is more tight here, so if you are uncomfortable strafing, I would recommend doing the ledge grab strat. Be careful not to strafe early, since it's possible that you just miss the wall and Mario gets pushed to the right. Try to get as close to the right side before long jumping, regardless of what strat you choose. If you want to be a little swaggy with this cruiser strat, you can also do a long jump double wall kick from this position. It's a strat that is often seen in 120 when you do the 100 coin star. For this strat, you actually want Mario to miss the wall on the long jump, then hold forward until Mario is rubbing the glass container, then C right twice and hold up right. Then double wall kick and proceed to cross the carpets. Let's get back to the regular strat. So now that we made it up here, there are 3 options to get to the cruiser. The most basic strat is to cross over both the carpets and go grab the pole. To do this, run to the falling log and single jump to the glass box. Then cross over and grab the pole. After you see right twice, you can climb to the top and jump and ledge grab the blue platform. These blue platforms are pretty scary at first, but you have very safe movement options to get to the ship. It is worth noting that these strats can also be used when you upgrade to Lac 2 bounce, so they're very good to practice. The next method of getting to the cruiser is getting on top of this tall glass box. You can get on top of it with a fairly precise side flip wall kick. You want to run in a small circle on the falling log and side flip once you get back on the cement. Try to hit the wall kick at max height to ensure that you ledge grab. From here you can drop down and ledge grab the falling log. Your last option is to long jump from the falling log, double wall kick and ledge grab. When doing these wall kicks, you want to hold up left after the first wall kick so that you can do the second wall kick without too much speed. Make sure to ledge grab after the second wall kick. Now we are at the last tricky part of the star. You want to make sure that you quick get up from the ledge. You want to run holding full right until you are at the 1-up. Here you want to roll your inputs from Z to A. The Z input should be when you're lined up with the 1-up, and the A press when Mario's between the 1-up and the edge. If you press A and Z on the same frame, Mario will ground pound. I find that if you're conscious about rolling your input, then you will be fine. If you do it instantly from the edge, you will have too much speed and bonk. If you have too much dust, i.e. waiting too long to press A after Z, you will not reach. One more thing to note, this will still work with a slow getup, but it's a little weird and you want to avoid it if possible. I'll show it, but I would recommend dropping down and crossing over instead if you get the slow getup. The ending of the star is straightforward regardless of what strat you chose. Just get up and long jump over to the star and ground pound under it. One thing to note, be careful when you ground pound under the star. If you accidentally long jump, you might end up long jumping off the ship. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this whole video. There's a lot of small things that aren't
for an audience with someone like myself. I was this like supposed kingmaker. So no, I don't think independent media, especially on the progressive side, that was critical of the campaign work that cost the election. I think you can't really outflank the campaign because at the end of the day,
that's so disingenuous, bro. Lamont, was so hard to get a straight answer out of you on this topic. Wait, what is disingenuous about what I said? I'm not saying that I have no influence whatsoever. Listen to my words. I'm saying that, yes, I do have some influence, but the idea that like I would have to lie to my audience in an effort to present a false narrative to make the, what? You had the same motion 8 years ago? What? I don't understand what you are hyper focusing on here. Are you saying that like, of course I wasn't a known entity 8 years ago as I am now? Is that what you mean? I don't. I know. Your words said if you had this motion, then Bernie would be ending. Wait, what? His second term? No. If I had the influence that question, the underlying premise in that question is you have tremendous influence. You have tremendous influence to swing elections. I'm addressing that premise and saying it's faulty because if I had that level of influence in this election, or if I had that level of influence that they suggest in the faulty premise in the 2016 election or the 2020 election, this would be Bernie Sanders' second term. I'm not saying I have that level of influence. I do recognize that I have some level of influence, but not to the same degree as I can like move mountains and change elections. Wouldn't you say the pro-Palestine movement as a whole had the motion, but not you individually? Wait, what? Would you say the pro-Palestine movement as a whole had the motion? No, I don't even think the pro-Palestine movement would be capable of individually changing the outcome of this election. I think that if the Kamala Harris campaign had decoupled from the Biden administration, if the Kamala Harris campaign specifically severed ties with the Biden administration on the issue of Gaza, this would create an impact that was positive for the campaign. It would play a positive role in the way that the campaign was received. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that there's like a singular antidote to fix the outcome of this election that took place. Of course, there's no singular antidote. There are a million different reasons why people either chose to not vote or vote for Trump or vote for Kamala Harris or even third parties. You have to combine all of those different reasons and try to present the best possible alternative, try to present the best possible campaign that way. Some people don't give a shit about Israel-Palestine, right? You understand? So there is no singular focus. There is no singular reason. There is no silver bullet here that could have helped. Fair put me down. No, I'm gonna shake you a little bit before, because you're being silly. Don't yap the cops. Why Sam Piker's U.S. Customs story kicked off backlash. Yeah, I saw this morning. What shoes are those, bro? The Dr. Martens.
They have $1.5 billion in their war coffers, and they're using that to be like, this is what we represent. So even if I were to, for example, let's say, try to get people to vote for Kamala Harris by lying and telling them she actually is super woke on Israel. She said to me secretly she's going to dismantle the Zionist entity piece by piece. Please go out and vote for her. She hates genocide. And then she goes on television and she's like, you know, Israel is super cool and I love Israel and we have to give more weapons to Israel. Israel has a right to defend itself. People are going to hear that and they're not going to listen to me. So there's no way that you can outflank the campaign in that regard. So I think it all still goes back to what they choose to communicate, how they communicate it, and ultimately it goes back to policies. Are they addressing the material realities, the fears and anxieties that people experience? And I don't think the Democrats do a good job with that at all, and I've been very critical of that because I don't want Donald Trump to win. I understand that American foreign policy to a certain degree is uniparty, and outside of that uniparty approach, it only ratchets further and further to the right, and that only happens when you have a right-wing president. So I don't want that to happen even on Gaza policy, which is, you know, seemingly uniparty regardless. And in order, like when I make these criticisms of the Democratic Party, it's not to harm them. It's because I want them to actually be a competent anti-fascist counterbalance to the Republican Party. I want them to fight.
So recently, as I just referenced, you did have a video on President Joe Biden's pardoning of Hunter Biden. And I actually thought you had a very interesting take on this in your video about pardons and crime bills. So how do you feel about the fact that the son of the man who led one of the biggest crime bills, which imprisoned the lives of many minorities and Black Americans, etc., just pardoned his son for those very same crimes?
Yeah, it's pure hypocrisy. It's ridiculous. And I don't mean hypocrisy in the sense that, like, he kept lying over and over again that he wasn't going to pardon Hunter Biden. I understand when he says it was an instance of lawfare, which is ironic because that's what Trump talks about all the time as well, and said Biden's DOJ was prosecuting Trump unfairly. I mean hypocrisy in its pure.
All right, hello. So I'm gonna play a BLJ example for you, and the main thing you want to focus on is how the camera turns whatever direction Mario is facing if you're not on at least the third step of the staircase. Sometimes this is something people don't realize. They just run up the staircase and go down, and then they usually have a bad angle, or they long jump too low on the staircase, so Mario's tilted weirdly. So yeah, camera turns, tries to face whatever direction Mario's facing. So I'm going to go into Mario Cam, see down here, and then I'm going to walk up a bit further up on the stairs. You notice how it kind of centers a bit? Yeah. So that's ideally what you're looking for. So I'm on the second step, almost touching the third step. So, kind of high up is good. I'm around here where I am is the general sweet spot, I would say. And this is a thing you're just going to have to grind a lot and get a feel for, but it's the long jump here. I long jump pretty soon after I walk off the stairs completely and I'm on flat ground. You notice here, it's a little hard because the stick inputs are obscured by this logo thing in this program I'm using. But you notice how I'm holding up and then I strain a little to the right. This is all dependent on your position, on where you long jump from. You may not have to do this if you long jump like way further out than where Mario is, like on the bottom white checker you see that's visible on the screen. Like you probably don't have to do that, but you also don't want to long jump from there anyways, because it may give you bad positioning. So once you have a feel for the positioning and so on, you want to get a feel for trying to land in front of the very first step. So you notice here with my stick, I'm straining a little to the right, or well, pretty far to the right. I'm basically holding, or no, I'm holding upright. And this is because there are 5 frames for Mario to land a long jump after he does one. So 1, 2, 3. So 3, that's a pretty late frame long jump, but it also allows me to get the first clip in and then start, just mashing and going at the whole thing. So again, just like those 2 things are so crucial for developing a fine understanding of the BLJs. The timing for this long jump and then getting a feel for the stick inputs so that you can land pretty much right in front of these stairs. You always want to get a later frame long jump on the first 2 clips. And then if you clip out or just don't get the clip at all, then you want to try and press A on the first frame that Mario touches the stairs. In some cases, depending on your positioning, you may have better luck with the later frame the further up you are, but I'm pretty sure generally the rule is the further up you are, you want to press A on the first frame to clip through the staircase. The way I do BLJs here is like the pro strat, where you preserve some of your speed from the BLJ. You don't need to be doing it. I mean, it's pretty hard, so I don't know if you could do it, but just focus on this and then clipping through the door, obviously. So then after you go through this door, I'm gonna do 2 jump kicks. This is so that the camera again doesn't auto rotate if Mario's still for too long. You want to be able to move enough so that the camera doesn't auto rotate, and then you're on the stairs so the camera stops rotating completely no matter where you are on the staircase. So like 2 pretty spaced out jump kicks. It's pretty lenient. You may see top runners like do these kicks a bit sooner, cleaner spacing. You don't need perfect spacing. You don't need perfect timing for these inputs, so long as that you do them soon enough after you gain control of Mario again after walking through that door. And then here it's pretty much a similar thing. The timing for BLJs may be a bit different here if you miss the first clip, but like I said, you just want to really aim for the first 2 stairs. Yeah. So I missed the first clip here, and then let's see how late I press A here. 1, 2. Okay, second frame, BOJ. So I know it may be a little hard to think in frames currently. It's just something you got to really develop a feel for, like I said, which I mean may not be the exact answer you're wanting to hear, but it really is all just a very feel-based thing. Feeling out which frame is which on the staircase, how early or late, or how different such a minute timing thing is. You just really need to lab it out and understand it thoroughly. I think even just this Mario Cam input or setup stuff will be useful enough for you if you're able to mash fast enough. Oh yeah, and quick pro tip here. I imagine you probably already know that staying on the center, maybe a little to the right, is better. You don't want to be too left on the staircase, otherwise you risk down warp into wet dry world. So just make sure you do your best to avoid that. If you know you're mashing a lot and you're like pretty high up on the staircase, notice how I hold down after a certain point. This is because I know I have enough speed, and when I hold down, I'm gonna be able to shoot myself and shoot myself around this area and keep myself here. What a lot of people do is they just keep on mashing and they keep on holding up and they get stuck and they may not pass the area that warps you again. So then you're just stuck doing BOJs again, and it's really really insufferable. And you also don't want to do that if you're on a good run or you're about to beat your opponent.
purest form. Joe Biden does not care about poor people, black people, brown people when they are now, their lives are irreparably ruined because of mistakes that they've made with the crime control bill that he was the architect of. But of course, when it's his own son, he's like, oh my God, we have to free him. Was at least do clemency for thousands of other people. Like, what the fuck are you doing? You're like, no, I'm just gonna fix this situation for my son. And worse, he also came out recently, and I can't believe he said this. They're actually entertaining a blanket pardon for Liz Cheney and Adam Schiff. Now, I get why he's trying to do that, because he thinks that like these important figures are probably going to be unfairly persecuted by the Trump administration. But like, really, Liz Cheney? Like, let her go to prison, please. Like, what are we doing? Anyway, that's my take.
That was the first part. This is the other one. What's next for Republicans after Trump and the widening gender gap in politics?
But Donald Trump is white man's Obama.
So just raise your hand and I'll pick on you. The member at the front, right there.
Thank you. Hassan, first of all, congratulations on Thanksgiving this year. It was much better than last year.
He said, congratulations on Thanksgiving this year. Much better than last year.
Now, Hassan, probably very evident that I agree with you 99.9%. So my question is going to be within the left, right? Mm-hmm. There seems to be an emerging debate, of which your uncle is on the other side of the aisle, and I'm on your side, by the way, that there is a fundamental challenge that comes with the left coalition. Bhaskar Sankar wrote an article in Vox about left being in purgatory. It appears to me so, and there's an honest criticism to you and all the other leftist streamers, Kyle Kulinski and everybody else. You guys talk about working class politics, but you guys don't look, walk, or sit and, be with the working class. That's an important hurdle, I feel, in not only making sure that you're advocating for those people, but also giving them the trust that you are their man and you will be fighting for them. One of the reasons that Joe Biden won the Midwest was because he could present that Scranton Joe figure. How do you perceive that challenge, and how to sort of also deal with this sudden turn among the leftists that we're going to put the trans people and the gay people under the bus? Balancing act, Hassan. How are you going to do that?
Great question. So I think that the way that the Democratic Party has done this is awful for the most part. I think we all agree on that, or at least, I mean, it was a demonstrable failure. The way they've presented this in the past is people, so you might as well vote for us, and make a compelling harm reduction argument, which has been a demonstrable failure time and time again. That like
Hassan does so regularly, but people choose not to see it or genuinely don't because they only consume sound bites and clips. No, I think like aesthetically, I don't, rock the, I mean, every now and then I wear Carhartt pants, but like, it's obvious that I don't like masquerade as working class because I feel like it would be disingenuous to do so. That's not who I am. I am who I am. I like what I like. I see no reason to lie about those things. And I feel like when Ted Cruz wears the snakeskin boots and a big belt buckle and says, yeah, I'm a real working class man, he's lying. I would rather not lie and be honest and tell you exactly what's up. That's it.
We are better than the Republicans and will protect you, but we're not going to make any, we're not even going to say we're going to protect you. And apparently now they're not even interested in protecting trans people at all. They want to be the transphobic party on top of everything else. I think this is a failure. I think the real way to combat this is not.
But as far as like showing up for stuff, I do actually go to the front lines. I will speak at protests. I will go out to marches. I will go to organized events. I will fundraise for organized events and activists. So I do all of that. And I also film all of that. And I try to offer a voice to all of that as well. So that is the reality. You hate anything that's not West or East Coast coded. I mean, I also have a tremendous amount of distaste or disgust even for Los Angeles, especially as it pertains to lack of affordable housing and the impact that has had on the exploding homeless population. I have so much anger and resentment towards California for not having any adequate public transit. So obviously, that's, you probably don't hear it as much because when someone from California shits on California, that is seen as more valid. But for someone from California to shit on Idaho, all of a sudden it's a very different, more contentious situation for you. Do you see what I mean?
Not to succumb to wedge issues that the Republicans are routinely using as a distraction. Because the reality of the matter is they don't want to have the tough conversations. They don't want to have an argument against someone who says, we need to build social housing, we need to build public housing, we need to claw back the housing market from these speculators, the people that treat it like as a simple asset and not shelter that you need for survival. When the Democratic Party makes a convincing argument on that front, now
part of the issue of insisting that leftists engage in working class aesthetics is that people can almost always see it as disingenuous. People aren't stupid, and wearing a cowboy hat or flannel is not going to actually convince people to join the cause. And this has been proven time and time again. It also always begs the question, what do working class aesthetics even entail? Yeah, there's hella dripped up teachers out there, for example, who have an interest in fashion. And I see it on TikTok all the time. There's like teachers in fucking Oklahoma, Texas, who also love fashion. And then when they're not at school, they get to show that. You know what I mean? You have baristas. Baristas are so fucking working class. Like, it doesn't... all of this stuff is just pure aesthetics. I don't try to focus on that stuff, or at least present myself in a way that I'm not, in an effort to garner the attention, or in an effort to showcase. I mean, aesthetics and optics are a part of this, for the record. To be fair, they are a part of this. Kidding. And I am a brand at the end of the day, and therefore, if I were to represent myself in that like working class way, I think it would be more helpful for sure. But I still choose not to, because I think it's just not who I am. I don't want to do that.
The Republicans have to present themselves against that in an effort to defend their corporate oligarchs, their corporate benefactors. And because of the unfortunate reality that the Democratic Party is also captive to the same corporate interests, they refuse to make that argument. And in that process, when they don't have anything, we don't have any red meat for the Republicans to grab onto and attack and try to position themselves as being against, especially popular policies such as Medicare for all, then the Republicans dominate the field. And culture war issues and wedge issues are their bread and butter. So I think it's a twofold problem. Obviously, you should be uncompromising in defending all marginalized communities. But having said that, the best possible way to do that is by pushing for universal programs that affect the lives of every single American unconditionally. This way, you broaden your coalition, and also simultaneously put forth policies that will put the Republican Party at odds with its base. And you need to be able to do that in an earnest way as well. So there's a long way to go for the Democrats, who unfortunately have destroyed any sort of goodwill that they could have had. They come across as technocratic elitists that are ideologically minded and invested in third-way neoliberalism unconditionally. And it's going to, you're going to need great communicators who are real fighters, who are really invested in improving the material conditions of all American workers.
Next hand. The person in the very back with the plaid shirt. Yes, you.
So in your speech, you raised sensible and legitimate concerns about Israel and its practices and how it has conducted the war, etc. I think you're somewhat vaguer on the solution. You implied, quote unquote, the dismantlement of the Zionist project. Could you get in a bit more of the specifics of what that would look like, be governing the land, what happens to the millions of Israeli Jews and Israeli Arabs? That.
Of course, great question. So I am a firm and committed believer in a singular, solitary, secular state. This is somewhat controversial for a lot of people because I think for so many years at this point, for the past couple of decades, it's always been the two-state project.
Bro, this is a crazy amount of
and
salad.
that is like the most likely, most realistic outcome. But I agree with Avi Shlaim, Israeli Iraqi historian Avi Shlaim, who also went on his own intellectual journey of moving away from the two-state solution to a singular state because of what the two-state solution represents. I call it the so-called peace process, for a reason, because that was very cynically used by the Israeli government to really explode the settler expansion in the West Bank to create Bantustans, to create these like tiny micro-Palestinian villages that they cut across deliberately, and that's what the two-state project looks like. And I think at this point, it's become a single state already, that Israel is the sovereign state of this entire territory, and it is an apartheid state. So I hope that with enough pressure, and it is already happening, things are changing in a way that I never thought I would see in my lifetime, where people will continue to engage with boycott, divestments, and sanctions, and make it impossible for Israel to maintain an apartheid state, and it will inevitably dissolve in the same way that the South African process happened.
The member at the very front in the black coat.
Hello. First, thank you so much for being here. It's great to hear you speak. I'm actually from UCLA, and I think you donated some pizzas to our encampment in the spring, so we really appreciate that. My question is on a topic Sarah brought up earlier, which is the reality of this really widening gender political gap among young people, especially like in online spaces. The radicalizing of young boys is a really intense threat. So I was wondering if you had any thoughts on how we can culturally course correct and adjust that issue in the future.
Yeah, it is a real problem. It is becoming worse and worse, I think. And it is, I mean, it's the same as enmity towards any other marginalized group, that like gender wars has become like the very common way that people find themselves in the throes of reactionary ideals. And I don't necessarily think it's just like the manosphere or the...
It is great to have back on the program.
All right, check this out. We just got some terrible news about the US economy, so our desperate president decided to use his presidential leverage in the only way he knows how, by hammering out all caps Truth Social posts, clearly flagging his weaknesses, clearly flagging that he is desperate for prices not to raise so his approval rating doesn't go lower and lower. And you know, he also tweets about Vladimir Putin. He then asks certain companies not to raise prices as the tariffs come into effect. He tweets about Jerome Powell once again. And then finally, he tweets about the 2020 election being stolen. Now, I'm not going to read through all of these, but I do want to lay the groundwork and then explain why the US economy is not in a good position. I want to explain exactly how we got here, but let's just start here. So early this morning, Trump sent out his first post. It says, "Whoever had control of the auto pen is looking to be a bigger and bigger scandal by the moment. It is a major part of a real crime, the presidential election of 2020 being rigged." And then when I click on it, this is a long, all caps Truth Social post. I mean, put this dude in an old person's home. No offense, but at this point, I don't want the president of the United States sending out all caps Truth Social posts. It says, "Committee of political thugs given a full and a complete pardon by the person who wielded the illegal power of the auto pen." All of this is false. Obviously, the 2020 election wasn't stolen. Trump is going on demented ramblings, and it's scary. Now, here's the one that really sparks some concern. He then tweeted out, "Walmart should stop trying to blame tariffs as the reason for raising prices throughout the chain. Walmart made billions of dollars last year, far more than expected. Between Walmart and China, they should, as I said, eat the tariffs and not charge valued customers anything. I'll be watching, and so will your customers." There are a few things going on right here. Number one, Trump is looping back around to our argument from 2 years ago, the corporate price gouging argument. If you guys remember, Biden, Warren, AOC, everybody pointed out that certain companies price gouge and there are way larger profits than need be. And now Trump all of a sudden is taking like the Bernie Sanders, Warren position on economics. It's insane. But also what he's doing here, it's like a form of not even communism, because I don't want to throw around that term when it doesn't apply. But when the president of the United States is trying to put his thumb on the scale to set price caps or to set price like limits on what companies can do and how they can sell, that's not free market capitalism. That is definitely not supply and demand. That is not capitalism at all. It's not full-on communism. I wouldn't call it that. I don't want to be like a MAGA Republican and misuse the word, but the president should not be telling corporations how to allocate their funds in this way, through a Truth Social post at least. He then says, in all caps, "I will be speaking by telephone to President Vladimir Putin of Russia on Monday at 10 a.m. The subjects of the call will be stopping the bloodbath that is the killing, on average more than 5,000 Russian and Ukrainian soldiers a week. I hate his framing. He always frames it as if both sides are equally at fault, and you guys know my problem with that framing. It's very clear that the onus falls on one side can withdraw their troops, Russia can stop the war, Russia can stop the bloodshed, Ukraine is fighting a purely defensive war. It is not equal at all. The onus does not fall on both sides. He then says, I'll talk to Zelensky. It'll be a productive day. A ceasefire will take place, and this war that never should have happened, never would have happened, will end. Well, dude, the ceasefire hasn't taken place. You said that it would take place on day 1. It didn't happen. You also have clearly gotten taken advantage of by Vladimir Putin, but I digress. That's not even what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the economy. Let's start with this. Yesterday, we learned that for the first time in its history, Moody's analytics firm has downgraded the credit rating of the United States from AAA, from AAA to AA1, which is a downgrade of the United States economy. And remember, in 2012, Trump tweeted out, "You get what you voted for." U.S. credit rating is about to be downgraded once again. Well, Trump supporters, you're getting what you voted for because Trump's chaos is destabilizing and is actively hurting the economy. When Moody's officially downgrades the U.S. credit rating, wait, just to back up, the last of the 3 big credit agencies have downgraded the U.S. and cut it. So when Moody's and all of them downgrade us, and they cite rising debts, unpredictability, the exact type of erratic fiscal outlook that we've seen from the Trump administration, right? So when Trump is posting